And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Two Nobodies Who Know Nothing with myself and Robert Watson. It is Monday, 5 o'clock as usual. We are here, 5 o'clock my time, I guess is what I should say, which is Mountain Time, which no one really knows what that is. It's always a confusing time, I feel like, but we just sprung forward, and that is annoying. Seems like 4:15 came really quick this morning. Robert, how you doing?
I am wonderful. I didn't even know that all this took place because everything is set forward, so I didn't realize that I lost the time because all my stuff's on Apple, so it all converted. I have an analog watch, and I just now figured out that I lost it. I went, damn, okay.
Hey, you were on time. That's all that matters, right?
That's it. That's it.
Daylight savings time is one of those things that really drives me insane because I don't know. Maybe it's just like the principle of the whole thing because I don't really. What I did notice this morning is like my alarm went off because I get up at 4:15 to do this. I get up at 4:15 every single day, but this we do at 5 o'clock in the morning my time, and it's kind of funny because the alarm goes off and I'm like, usually I'm looking over at my phone at about 2:30 and like I kind of wake up a little bit and I look over at it and I'm like, oh yeah, and then I look at it, see what time it is, and I go back to sleep. But this morning it just went off. So you can tell for me, like there's a little bit of difference. It's like, dang it, it just came,
Love it. So I actually did go review the comments that you prompted you last week. And what so fascinated me is, right, when I was making the argument for why you shouldn't do voter ID, I wasn't making the argument. It wasn't my argument. It was an argument that I had heard and I understood what the opposing side was trying to say. And what's so fascinating to me is I don't look at things in the world that they kind of put them. They framed it as BS and all that. And that's not the way I look at it. I look at the world and say, how likely is that? And I look at it and I go, okay, that's not incredibly likely, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at things as whether they're logical or not whether they're, an overinflated hyperbole explanation for something. I just look at them and say, okay, yeah, I can see that, but geez, that's not going to affect that many people.
Right.
And so what interests me is their inability to see the world as any other viewpoint than theirs.
Yes.
And and that fascinates the crap out of me because everything has vantage points. If you and I look at a car accident from two different sides of the street, right? You're on one side, I'm on the other. We are naturally going to see things differently just because of our geography in this case.
Yeah.
This is not anything to do with your, oh my God, Wes, you've lost your mind. No, it's Wes is looking at it from the east. I'm looking at it from the west. And we see a slightly different viewpoint. That doesn't make you nuts. It doesn't make me right. And I think that's the thing that the polarization fact of you're just wrong and I'm right. Oh my God. Yeah. That is such a stark position, like in a relationship, right?
Yeah. Well,
Are you
it's
really
amazing.
Going to argue that?
Yeah, it's amazing the comments that you get on those. And here's the thing. First of all, let me just tell you this. The reason that the clips that are getting posted get posted because it's trying to spark a conversation. So they are kind of clickbaitish, right, to get people to talk. The problem is that no one talks anymore. No one even has this conversation. It's just you're right, I'm wrong. And as you're talking about it, like I'm sitting here thinking, like, what if all we saw was just data points on a piece of paper, right? What if that's what we saw? Okay. And the data points were this many people didn't show their ID when they voted, or this many people didn't show this or that. Like the funny thing about it is the main arguments are, well, people can't afford that, right? Okay. So now you start to go in and you start to look at the data point. Okay. So people can't afford that. And then you pull that number and say it's like 3%. So 3%, there's 97% who can. Okay. So you're telling those 3% people that they have to go do this or they have to go do that. And then a lot of comments are like, there are places that allow and they give free ID to people at the poll so that they can actually vote, but you have to prove who you are. Well, it's not that hard. And I think the biggest thing is that everyone who disagrees, the reason why they disagree is from who said it. But if all they saw was the data points that this affects this many people, then they would go, well, gee, that makes sense. Let's figure out a way to get that 3% to get their ID, you know. And I'm not saying, I'm just throwing a hypothetical number out there. I don't know what the actual number is, but I can guarantee you that there's a lot of people, you know, they're talking about, hey, you know, what about the homeless? What about the people who are poor? What about the people who this? What about the people who do this, you do that or whatever? You know, like there's all these reasons why you can't do it. And so, all right, then the argument becomes, well, you have to show an ID to do this. You have to show an ID to do that. You have to show an ID to do this. You have to show an ID to do that. Well, if you're poor, you know, and you go out, you have to show your ID to go buy alcohol. A lot of these homeless people are buying alcohol. That's one of the arguments, is that it's a homeless person, right? Or it's a poor person. They have to show an ID to get a job, right? If they're going to work, they have to show an ID to get government assistance. They have to show an ID to do all these other things, but they can't show an ID to do a vote. It's kind of weird. It's kind of hypocritical to talk that way. And I just don't get it. But what really bugs me is the fact that you have a differing opinion. And a lot of it has to do with who says whatever they say. Because right now the big complaint is, well, Trump is a racist and Trump is a Nazi and Trump is a bigot. And he wants people to show ID when he votes. And that's racist, Nazi, and bigotry. Now, if someone else, if Joe Biden said that, if Barack Obama said that, and this is an argument that I got. This is one of the arguments that I got, is like someone was talking about immigration and how, and the guy started arguing with me about immigration and how Trump created ICE. Well, guess what? Trump didn't create ICE. Bush did. Bush was the one who did that. Okay. But when you look at the data, Obama had deported way more people than Trump's ever deported. The other day I was listening to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talk about it. 70 deaths when Obama was in office of these immigrant people that they're trying to deport. And Trump, you know, we've seen 2 of them so far. There may be more. I'm not saying that there's not, but the problem is that Trump did it, not Obama did it. And then the guy's response is, oh, good for you. You know of all these other presidents who deported people, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're a bigot. So this is the problem. It's like the moment that you come to them with data, they either stop talking or they decide that you're wrong. And then they start name calling. You know, it's like someone told me it was, oh, that's a opinion from a simple-minded person. And it's like, okay, dude, cool. I'm simple-minded. Prove to me how I'm simple-minded. It's a simple answer to a simple question. No matter what it is, it's like, this is where we go. We go straight to insult instead of, and it's because they don't like who said it or they don't like the person who is trying to put it in play because it was fine when someone else did it. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, my research, my thesis is on what's called mythical moral binaries. And I know that sounds like a whole lot of words, but it's so that it can give credit to the people that theorized it. And the idea behind it is real simple. If we put everything in a binary of good and evil, okay, then if Trump is evil, then you if you side with Trump, you're immoral. Okay, so what we're doing by creating the starkest of contrasts, that's why they call it a moral binary, but they call it mythical because it basically creates this starkness where it's not like America is exceptional as a country. What you've done is you create a binary where that if you start criticizing America, you're unpatriotic.
Right.
Well, come on, there's a lot of gray area. What they try to do is they try to create this black and white universe. That way it's simple, and that way we don't have to do anything. Like, for example, America is an exceptional country, but it had some problems with slavery and killing Indians and taking land that wasn't it. You understand that America's not perfect by any stretch of the means, but by calling it exceptional, you're making that moral binary where you're unpatriotic if you start criticizing. And it's not necessarily criticism, it's the recognition of historical fact.
Yeah.
And that's where you're trying to get to, is you're just saying, well, hold on a second. If we got away from the moral binary and we started to actually look at the data, we would go, huh, okay, that doesn't exactly, but again, as long as you can stay in the moral binary world, then you're good and evil. And then we can stay partisan and we never actually, if we can't get to the middle, okay, we can never negotiate. We can never talk. We can never settle anything because remember, to side with the orange man is evil.
Yeah. Well,
Nazi. Yeah.
I think we talked about this. I don't know if you watched the State of the Union or not, but I know that I did, and I'm going to tell you, this is like one of the first times I watched it in a very long time, and I'm sitting there watching it, and just like when he called out, like he tried to get some unity, and they're like, screw you, I'm not going to even stand for this. I don't even agree that this is okay. Like, if you agree that we should put America first when it comes to this, then please stand, and then only the right stands and the left sits over there, and one or two of them did. It's insane. It's like okay, so if you don't stand with that, then how do you really feel about this country? You don't think America should be put first? Your job is to put America first. That's what we're here for. And that's the hardest part for me. We've got a comment in the thing here from Joe, who's new. Thanks for hanging out with, or Joel, thanks for hanging out with us. He says voter ID or just valid ID to vote. What if you get a felony and not allowed to vote? Does that voter ID get revoked? Well, when you're a felon, as far as I know, and I don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that I don't think you can vote when you're a felon. I mean, Jelly Roll's been talking about that for a while because he's a felon, and it's voting rights are taken away when you're a felon, correct?
They're taken away at the federal level. Your states vary. For example, Texas restores your rights to vote after you're done with whatever the sentence is in supervision, but only at the state level. It doesn't return them at the federal level. And I think that's what Jelly Roll's talking about is why would you lose your rights forever? Doesn't seem to make sense. Why would you? The word we're searching for is disenfranchise you, right? You no longer have your rights as a citizen because you did X.
Yeah.
Or in the case of voter ID, you're basically taking the group that cannot afford it and you're disenfranchising them. And then the question is why are we disenfranchising? Why do you lose your vote? Why would you be, these are all the questions you're saying. And your comment about the 3% that can't afford an ID, you're disenfranchising 3% at the expense of 97%. Mm-hmm. There is a concept in our world called the greater good. The idea is what serves the greater good, that you cannot be in a society that satisfies 100% of the people all the time.
Right.
It's just the reality of the greater good. If 60% of the people are well served by this thing and 40% are not, what are you trying to do? You're trying to say, well, because 40% cannot, we can never do what's right for 60?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that concept gets lost.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, like with the felony thing, I personally feel like, okay, you're in prison, right? So you're a felon. Obviously, when you're a felon, you're going to go to prison for some time. I feel like you probably should have your right taken away because that's what prison is. It's taking your rights away, right, for not doing what the rest of society does. Okay, but when you get out, you've done what you were supposed to do. You've served your time. Then you should be allowed to vote again because that was a right that was taken away from you. There's other things that come with whatever your felony charge was, but like the voting situation, it still should be part of your right because that doesn't really, it affects an election, but it doesn't affect another person. It's so hard. That's kind of like a tough one to unpack because there's so many different things that could be wrong. But I feel like when they put you in prison, the goal is to rehabilitate you. And when you come back out, which we know that a lot of times different things happen for different reasons, but it seems as though you'd be really rehabilitated at that time. My biggest thing with voter ID is that there's places like Adam Carolla talked about this in the last election in California. He lives in California. He went in to go vote in LA and they ask you the question. They look at you. They say, what's your name? Where are you from? They won't take your ID. So they don't even verify that you're from wherever you're from. So, you walk in there, they don't know that you're from what city you're from. They don't know what state you're from. You don't give them a voter ID number. All they're asking you is very basic questions to give you your ballot. Whereas when I went in to go vote one time here in Idaho, and I still have this problem because my driver's license has 3 addresses ago. I've moved since my last driver's license. They issue it for 8 years. And so I live in one city and my driver's license says I live in another. I've changed my registration to vote. However, my driver's license doesn't say my current address, so I can't vote in that district. They look at my driver's license. I'm in my work truck. I don't have any other way of verifying what I am other than my driver's license. So they can't just look at your picture and go, okay, so where are you at? And then they look at your address and they're like, okay, so is this your current address? And I say, well, no, it's not. And then they go, or I'm showing up in Boise, but I lived in Star, which is the election is for Boise. They want to give you the right ballot too. And they say, do you have another form of identification to prove what you are? And I'm like, well, what would that be? And like a power bill or this or that. And I'm like, well, shoot, I'm too far away from home, but I got to go home to get that and come back and vote. So I got turned away at the poll because my driver's license didn't match where I lived. But if I was Adam Carolla, I could just walk in there and vote. And there's no verification. And to the point where he's asking the person, can I just show you my driver's license? And they're like, no. So that's insane to me. We need to verify at least that you are the person that you say you are. And then at that point, if you're not registered to vote, then you have to register to vote at the poll here in Idaho, but you don't have to do that in California. You can just vote,
Spinning off of something else you said about polarization, do you know in the last probably 4 years, there was one issue that garnered bipartisan, one big global issue that engendered bipartisan support? Okay, not some small issue, but a big issue. Do you know what the big issue was? War aid for Ukraine against Russia.
Bipartisan.
In the front end, bipartisan. In the front end, the first $40 billion, which was the first 2 votes, were bipartisan. I mean, they were overwhelming votes. In other words, it wasn't the typical 220 to 201.
Right.
And if you look at the Senate votes through the entire year of 2022, the Senate votes were very lopsided, like 75-25.
Yeah.
So on a big issue, we haven't had a lot of big issues. There may be some small issues they agreed on, but this is a pretty big issue, right? You're, funding, helping Ukraine fight Russia. You're inserting yourself into a war, and that had bipartisan support. I don't think American people even realized that it happened. They were very supportive of Ukraine, but I don't know that they realized that all that partisanship actually went away, at least for a year.
Huh. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's tough because I think that someone, like when someone says you have a simple thought process on it or simple minded thing or whatever, you sit there and you go, well, that's a really simple minded answer because you bring no data to back that up. And I'm not saying that I know everything there is, but if you're going to challenge someone on something that they say, you should bring a fact with you, or actual data of how that worked. And this is what we don't do. And if you don't have data, then you just start name calling because it's the way that you feel. And I think we talked about this last time too. It's like, I don't know your situation, Robert. I know you on this level. We've talked quite a bit. I know a bit about you, but I don't know how you went to work today and got name called or something like that, or how you're struggling financially, or how something in your life affected you the way that it was. And, you decided to go into the military, or you decided to quit football, or you decided to do this. These are all things that we don't know. However, when you just start name calling instead of actually being a good part of the conversation, and that's where we've gotten, just like you said, Orange Man bad, Biden's bad, whoever it is, it's like whenever we say whatever we say, it's because of a way that we feel instead of a way that we actually know the facts of what's going on. And you have to be able to look at it all. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that we don't do that anymore. We just
it is that. It's that you said it's simple minded. And the reason for using moral binaries is so things are simple, so that you can get everybody on one side or another.
Right.
And the fact of it, again, it's not that it's wrong to use good versus evil, because sometimes there is evil in the world. There is no question. But my point to that is, it is actually to drive to the simple mindedness of saying, we're going to eliminate the gray space, we're going to eliminate the debate. And this is just good or bad, orange man bad, orange man good.
Yeah.
And that's where people have gotten to. The reality is that we do spend the super majority of our time in that gray space,
Yep.
where we do have room for discussion. Like we talk about seeing that car accident from the east and west.
Mhm.
And you and I get together and we say, well, what can we agree on? Well, the red car hit the blue one from the back. We
Yep.
both go, yeah, that happened. Now, how the vehicle signaled or what caused it or all that kind of stuff, we may disagree on, because again, of our vantage points, because you can see his turn signals, I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
So you go, well, the reason he hit him is because he didn't use his turn signal.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, geez, really? Oh, okay. I didn't see that part. The problem is he still hit him from the back. He's still responsible for his car. And we both go, yeah, that's really true. You hit him from the back. But we look at it and we say, my God, if he would have used his turn signal, he wouldn't have got hit. Okay. We could, again, that's going down the progression. But the reality, we could agree that the red car hit the blue one.
Yeah.
We both agree, and it hit it from behind, and we both agree that the red car is responsible for not hitting the blue car. Okay. See, we can come to agreement, but that's not what we do when we do a moral binary.
Yeah.
Okay. What we do in a moral binary is red car bad, blue car good.
Right.
Nobody has any other responsibility than that.
Yep. Yeah, and that's it's just a tough one. It's nothing is an absolute, but we decide. Joel says emotional instead of using facts over feelings, and that's the thing. It's like, what I find very funny is that you can look at it from that way, but like, there's so many people who say the same thing. I've got a lot of people who. It's funny. I have two people that follow me on TikTok, or I follow one on TikTok. The other one follows me on TikTok, and they're talking about this one lady is from Canada. They're both from Canada, actually. And, they're from another country and they're commenting on what's going on in this country. However, one, the real Canadian bacon, and I don't know if you follow her or not. I'll send you a post so you can see some of the stuff that she's doing, but she talks about living here it's funny. She has the same taglines. Hi, I'm from Canada and I've lived here in America for like a year and a half. It's the same thing every single time, kind of like how you do your post, where it's not repetitive, but it's like it's the same, same tagline. And someone will comment on something and then she'll talk about it. She's trying to understand why everyone hates our current administration. And so she's taking these comments that people are saying, and then she's going through and she's doing the research and she's taking notes. She says the same thing every single time. So she takes the notes and then she starts actually digesting and going through and talking to everyone about what it is. And she's got facts. And then I have another friend who's over there going through that and is talking about how it's facts over feelings, but just posting a video and showing his feelings over the facts. So it's just weird. It's like, and then saying facts over feelings. And to me, it's like, okay, there are real legitimate facts here. The one person's like, I can't even vote because I'm from Canada. And then showing all this stuff one way, and then she's showing everything, like she's going through the whole thing. And if she's wrong, if the comment's wrong, right, she's going to agree with it. But if not, she's going to tell you why. And that's just where it is. It's like we have these two sides. One is, I'm upset because of who I am and this has happened to me, and I don't care what you think, but this guy's wrong. And then the other one is, here's all the facts. We may not like it, but it is what it is. And we've had this vote, and it's funny because I've got this feeling about what's going to happen in November. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I got a pretty good feeling about it. And if enough people don't like what's going on now, then they'll go to the polls and they'll vote and it'll change, right? And that's just like what happened with the reason why we have a different president now than we had before, because enough people didn't like it. So we have to all agree, and this is another argument that we get in on these little clips that we're posting, is that we don't like what he says. We don't like how he says it. That's a feeling thing, okay? We don't like what he's saying to us. That's why no one likes him, because what he says and how he says it. They don't look at the work of what's going on. They just look at the way that he made them feel. And again, that's a fact over feeling. Tell me the facts of why you don't like something. Don't tell me why you feel the way you feel. And that's all I'm saying, is we still need to have these open conversations. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. What's he doing? And how is he doing it? And what is he getting accomplished? And if you don't like that, then tell me why and give me some numbers, just like I'm trying to do with you, and instead of just going, oh, nope, you said you're for this, you said you're against this. And they don't even know. I mean, they're making that assumption based on something that I said or something that you said. They don't know what side we're on. The position for me is on the position of what it is. Like, look, yeah, I think you should have to show your driver's license to take a vote. That's all there is to it. Has nothing to do with what side I'm on. Has to do with the fact that give me your driver's license so that I know that you deserve the right to vote in this country, that you live here, that you can identify yourself. That's it.
Can you imagine for a second, just for fun, you remember the red car hit the blue car?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that the one person gets out of the car, the red car is screaming that the blue car caused the problem, and the witness at the side, the guy in the blue car happens to be liberal, and the witness at the side who can validate the blue car person's story is wearing a MAGA hat?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand my point? It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I got to get a guy that I disagree with to tell me. Oh, it's funny how that changes when your interest changes.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's Joel was talking about, like, you see it's about the media spin on the deal. And I mean, obviously, like I was saying, the idea behind the clips that we do is to get a conversation going, right? But you look at these angles of every scenario, and it's just like you said, the red car and the blue car. The person in front looking this way, coming this way, saw something different than the person going this way, right? Like you, and I'm sorry you guys can't see it, but one person coming from one direction saw it one way, the other person saw it the other way. So you can sit there and say that it's wrong, but it's like an umpire, right? The umpire is the one who dictates what's actually going on in the game. Now they've got a camera behind there, and you can challenge it. I've watched like Patrick Bailey do this a lot with the Giants, and apparently he's 100% for calling it because you get two chances. But when you see the truth and you see it happen in real life, you can't just say, well, that's not how it happened. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's like you see it from different angles. The fact of the matter is it still happened the way that it saw. So if it's on camera, now why do cops wear body cameras? Because they have to prove that what they saw was what they saw. That's all there is to it.
Additional evidence. We go back to the evidence thing. And what was so interesting about our scenario is it just so happened that when the red car hit the blue car, that there was a camera over at one of the stores that saw the whole thing. Yep. Right. So again, doesn't matter what the conversation is, everybody now is looking at this impartial source, which is this camera, who happened to be at the perfect angle and saw it as it was. Yeah. Again, the argument ends, and then people say, well, that's not really what happened. Well, that's sure what it looks like on camera.
Yep, for sure. And that's it. I mean, to me, it's just about you have to be willing to not let, that happen. In this case, it's that TDS, like you don't like what he said. And it's funny, we'll end it kind of with this, but like when I used to watch The Apprentice, I kind of liked the way that, I thought it was kind of funny. It's like, you didn't do your job, you're fired, right? With Trump. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people watch that show. And then all of a sudden he's president. They don't like him anymore. So it's just it's a weird thing. So great conversation as usual, Robert. I think the big challenge for everyone is to continue to see both sides, look at both sides. Don't just talk about the way that you feel about it, because that's the biggest problem. is that we don't look at it and make a logical decision anymore. We just decide with our feelings. It has to be, I know it's hard because, you have these different feelings and different things that you've been through in your life, and they may make you feel a certain way. But the name calling is happening on both sides. The people are saying the same thing over and over again. You're only seeing certain parts of what you want to see, and you have to be willing to look at, like in this case, it's like, look at what CNN is saying, look at what Fox is saying, and realize that it's somewhere in between there. And that's all there is to it.
True.
We have to be willing to make a objective judgment. So
Exactly.
yeah. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. This has been another edition of Two Nobodies Who Know Nothing. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/Wes Tankersley. You can actually subscribe on YouTube as well. And we will catch you next week at the same time, same place.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.